Welcome to my video reaction on the Canterbury Tales. In this opportunity, we are gonna be reacting to the Reeve's Tale. We are gonna see its plot, setting, characters, and all the important themes that it expresses by Geoffrey Chaucer. It is important to mention that the Reeve is a person that is a kind of judge, that these people were very famous at that time. And this tale is a response on the previous one. All the whole composition that we have on the Canterbury Tales, we have an order. And first we have the Miller, and then we have this one, which is the Reeve's Tale. So the Reeve's Tale is a reaction on the previous one, the Miller's Tale, because in that story, all the praises were meant to be given to the Miller. And there was not that much to say about the Reeve, which was just a poor carpenter that had been humiliated. So this is their revenge from the Reeve, and you are gonna know why. So this is the story about a miller that lives in the field, and all the people in the town is taking their grains, corn, and any other type of flour to be grounded there at the mill. But people were kind of noticing something weird, and it was that the miller was not fair with everybody because he was kind of stealing the grains from people, and that was actually where all his wealth came from. One day, two scholars, wanted to determine if that was really true. So they went to the miller's house, they took their grains in order to be grounded. But the miller was more clever than them because he untied up his horse and he went off so that the students go after the horse. So they did so, and when they get back with the horse, it was already dark. It was night already. That was the opportunity for the miller to take the grains for him in order to do the robbery in there. So, since it was really late, the students asked the miller to stay the night right there. But the miller had only 3 beds at home, one for him and his wife, the other one for their 20-year daughter, and the third one, which is the one that they lended to the two scholars. The mistake that the miller committed was to get drunk, because they started to get excited, they ate, they drank, and the miller got drunk. So he was not even aware of what he was doing at the moment of going to sleep. So the students took advantage of that, and they took justice in their hands because they wanted to take revenge on the miller because of what he was doing with the grains. So they went after the daughter and they raped her. They also took advantage of the wife and they raped her as well. So this is a very dark ending in which you wouldn't want to tell this story for kids because that is not appropriate. So this is a very controversial story by Geoffrey Chaucer, and that is actually why I selected this. I'm gonna be reacting to this story, so please stay tuned in order to see all the information that I gotta share with you in this amazing video reaction. Let us get started with the characters in order to understand a little bit more what this story is about. Main characters in the story. First of all, we have an omniscient character, which is the Reeve, and this is type of the narrator of the story. She doesn't appear on the scenes, but he is kind of knowing everything and what is gonna go next in the story because he is the Reeve. So he's the one in charge of making justice, and he's actually the one that is intended to send the two scholars to the miller's house to make justice. Then we have the famous miller, Thinking. And this is the type of man that everywhere he goes, he's looking for a fight. So that is not that type of man that you would like to have as a friend. That is the miller's attitude. Then we have the two scholars. We have John and also Alan. These are scholars from the clerk, and their mission is to be sent in order to discover all the actions that the miller is performing. Then we have the miller's wife, which we don't know the name, and also his daughter. The only thing that we know about her is that he is 20 years old, and that later they are gonna be abused by the students, and that is just because the miller's bad attitudes and misbehaviors. And later we have the boy in the clutter. The miller and his wife had a boy that is on a clutter, and that is gonna be really meaningful at the end, which are we gonna be analyzing the themes and the symbols in the story. So this is about the characters. Now let's move on to the next part, which is the setting. So this is a historical setting, and this is going to happen in Canterbury. All these events happening in Canterbury in a mill that is in the village of Trumpington, which is near Fort Cambridge, England. So all this story is going to be happening at this setting, and that is why we have some representative symbols as the fields, the way in which people interact at that time, and also the grains, which are going to be very meaningful because that is actually what provided wealth to the mailer. Now let's see the next part. And those are the symbols, because each story has its symbols. And first of all, we have several symbols in this story. First, we have the horse, which is the one that helps the miller to get rid of the students' assumptions. The horse is a really, really important symbol because this represents sex. Sex was represented by horses in that age at that time. So all people having a horse, that meant sex. That is what they represented. Horses were that representation. We also have the cradle. The cradle is a symbol that helps us to understand the innocence that happens within the story. Because the students didn't care about the boy, didn't care about the cradle, so they took it, they moved it, and they used it in order to cheat on the miller's wife, in order to rape her. They took advantage of the cradle on its innocence in order to do this. So this is a representation of innocence. The horse as representing sex, the cradle representing innocence, and we also have the grains and the flour, which were the mean by which the miller did all his misbehaviors. That is why this is a symbol that tells us that if you do bad in life, you cannot expect to receive good things. Because this is actually what happened. The miller didn't have a good ending, a happy ending, because of his actions were evil. These are basically the symbols in the story, and all those were meant to get revenge. And that is actually the purpose of this story, because the previous tale, which was the miller's, is a response. This one is a response on the miller's tale. And that is why revenge is one of the most highlighted symbols in the story. Now let's move on with the themes. We have rules and order, quitting, sex and violence, lies and deceit, and also quitting in terms of payback. Themes are the purposes by which the stories are told. And it is important to mention that this story doesn't have an outcome. It doesn't have a moral to learn. It has a very, very damaging ending, which, as I stated before, is not appropriate to be told to toddlers or young people. So this tale is a representation of rules in order. Since we said before that the Reeves is a signifier of justice and judgments, rules and order are a very important theme in the story because the students want to take advantage of, they want to take justice by their hands, which at the end is not something appropriate, but that is one representation on the way in which rules were given at that time, and that is why there were very unfair behaviors and unfair treatments for people, because rules and order were not performing at their best. We also have quitting in the sense of paybacks, because these stories are all about revenges. If you did something to me, then I'm gonna be doing something worse for you. And that is actually what this wants to mean, that it is about paybacks. And in this story, the Reeve didn't have a really good lifestyle in the previous tale, so this is his opportunity to taking advantage of the Miller misbehaviors in order to do bad with his life. Then we have sex and violence. Sex and violence as the means for making justice, which is not something proper. Sex because the two women were raped, the miller's wife and also the 20-year daughter. And this was the means by which the scholars wanted to get revenge from the miller. This is what they used to take advantage of it. And we also have lies and deceit. Life can be deceiving, and in this opportunity, they use the cradle. Students use the baby's cradle in order to cheat on the wife, to take advantage and rape her. So that is basically what happened in the history themes. Well, and at the end, the miller got his repeat. All the grains were took out from the students. They took them all, and his family was destroyed. He was punished, so he got his repeat. But now my question is that the way as it should be done? Because epic stories are all the time telling us that there must be a hero, and the hero is characterized for doing good. But was this what students did? They actually didn't do good. They took revenge on his hands, but their actions seem to be even worse than the ones that the miller did. So this is the controversial part of this story, and that is why I actually selected this. At the end, it says that the miller actually got his revenge, and that if you do bad, do not expect to receive good in life. But should you defeat bad, should you defeat evil, doing even worse things? That is not the way as it should be done. And that is actually, we gotta keep that into consideration when reading this tale. I really like this tale, and I really enjoyed reacting to this because this is a really amazing story in which the ending is very unpredictable. So if you are the one in which you like endings that are not expected, I really recommend you to read this story. So this was my video, and remember, do good every time so that you won't receive some paybacks as the mirror. And don't try to be a Reeve as the one in this story. Thank you so much for watching my video reaction. You have a nice one. Bye bye.